Over to Shocks.
Thank you very much, D-Man. We just saw Legacy eSports defeat Dark Passage in a turnaround win, and now they're ahead of the table as well. And, well, these teams, they can brawl, they love to brawl, they love to fight. Let's go back to the beginning first, because in picks and bans, there was nothing really that was that special. Maybe the Zillion, but it's something we've gotten used to, actually.
Yeah, so pick-wise, very standard. It's what we see. Renekton was locked in by Dark Passage, a champion who's kind of fallen out of favor if you look at like Korea, Europe, and NA as well, but still locked in for Fabulous. Didn't work out too well, except for the early game where you had a good start. Analyst, our first pick, surprised me a little bit. I would expected them to go top lane, but actually win for EGM in the bottom lane, and again, you just 100% prioritize Alistair because you first pick him. It worked out because he was fantastic on it in their mid-game team fights.
Yeah, he really made a difference. Trevor said it there at the end. The amount of 2-3-man knockups that he pulled off was pretty incredible. At the start was out-leveled a little bit, which I think caused a bit more of a shaky start than Legacy would have hoped for, but overall his performance, top cow.
Yeah, well, a good point there from you that he just started to roam and started wanting to make plays from a very early level on when it wasn't necessarily the right time. We're actually going to take a look at one of the replays where Legacy eSports committed. They went in, let's get that up on the screen, and it wasn't exactly the right timing yet for them.
No, so early on, or pretty much the entire game from Legacy, they constantly wanted to team fight, they wanted to get some kills on the board. The issue they do have at this point is, first of all, they don't have any wards, so they can't really chase so far into the jungle of Dark Passage. We can actually just run the replay, and at the same time, once they fail to kill Touch, they invest a lot of time onto him, a lot of their spells, all the CC used from EGM and Carbon onto trying to kill Touch. Doesn't work, he stays alive, Holy Phoenix joins in. Notice now Milky Way, he's gonna flash the wall, join in once again, but the tower is right here. You can't really tower dive at this point, and you already used all your CC. EGM is very low, so it's an easy teleport from Fabulous. Calm down, turn it around, and meanwhile in the mid lane, Choo-Choo's has issues against Naru in the early stages. He dies one-on-one. Naru comes in with the ulti as well to finish off EGM here and get a double kill. So, very aggressive play by Legacy at the start, just over-aggressive.
Yeah, and we actually saw there, I don't know if you realize in the replay, that Xerath hit level 6 with the kill, which then gets set him up for that ultimate on that. And just overall, yes, the Xerath was doing a lot of work from, I think we can say earlier on, but a lot of those ultimates, we have to say, were not on point. There were 2 or 3 ultimates where at least 2, sometimes 3 of his charges of his ultimate didn't connect, and that was a lot of their damage. If Xerath doesn't hit shots, then you're gonna struggle.
That's the thing, they didn't actually, in team fights at least, Dark Passage, they never seemed very coordinated, and they didn't chain the CC and then use the Zero Fold on whatever target was either binded or stunned by Renekton to get as much damage off as possible. But mid-game wise, or early to mid-game, it was still Dark Passage who did well. They had a lot of war control in the start, they got a lot of picks onto Legacy, and also because we had Elise building Spirit of the Ancient Golem, which means you're going to be strong in team fights, but their early game you kind of lose out on the AP and some of the skirmish power. At the same time, Zillion in the mid lane building Tia and Athenes, which means you need to kind of stack it up, you need to get your mana items going before you get any AP, so they were weaker for the first like 15 minutes. Once they got the items completed, once they got into team fights, however, they were just so much stronger.
Yeah, actually nothing changed. They like to fight throughout the entire game, but as you said, when the Kog'Maw was picking up a couple of kills, then you have a Zillion who can just revive him when he dies in a fight. It's perfect. And let's actually take a look at one of the team fights that were on a little bit later in the game. Let's get that replay up on the screen where both teams just go ham once again.
Yeah, so this was my main issue with Dark Passage and the way they played the game. Because if you do notice, they have very few wards on the map at this point. They had a lot in the start where they got the picks they wanted, and then all of a sudden, Legacy just took full control of the map. And at the same time, if you notice on your minimap, Renekton at this point is not with his team. He's actually behind Legacy, which means as soon as they engage onto Dark Passage, he's not part of the fight at all. And this happened for Dark Passage so many times where there were like 4 members that were out of position. We can just roll the clip here. Very nice engage coming in from EGM, hitting 2 members again, and just instantly blow them up. Get the 2 first kills. Once again, notice Fabulous on Renekton. He's not even part of the fight. Now he has to run away. We can just roll it normal speed because but just cleaning up the kills now. Naru in the very end. And Dark Passage in these mid-late game team fights, they almost seem like a team who's too used to winning the early game and just kind of snowball the game and just do whatever you want to win. Because as soon as Legacy put up a fight, Dark Passage just crumbled. They were never in position, never had enough wards, and always just got engaged on by Legacy and died.
And took some fights that they probably shouldn't have taken, you know? If we looked at the one around Baron, one guy dies, and then the rest of the team somehow decide, okay, now is our time to shine and start to move in for the fight there as well. And I think, as you mentioned, that if we look at especially the games in Turkey and some of the recent solo queue games, 25, 30 minutes, all of them, except just a couple in there. So maybe that is a factor for them, that they're used to being far enough ahead that 1 or 2 dodgy team fight decisions doesn't cost you that much because you're so far ahead and you can win them anyway.
Yeah, of course, this was only the first game for them, so we will see if that is something that they can change going into the next games here today. But Legacy Esports, I remember last year it was Immunity here on the stage. It also did very well those first moments. They're dealing with the pressure very well. Can they keep this up?
If they keep playing like they did here and they keep team fighting the way they did, sure. Because for me, Dark Passage was the favorite going into the tournament, also because they had experience from last year, experience in front of the big crowd in Turkey, so they're used to sitting on stage. But they simply lost out in mid to late game team fights.
Yeah, and in theory, Russian Forces team fights shouldn't be as strong, you might argue, as the 2 teams we've just seen there, because of the fact that they've got 3 new players in. It takes a long time to get your synergy to a level where you can team fight perfectly. They've got to be a little bit careful about laning phase, though. Falling too far behind could still cost them later on. We'll see about that.
We will see, indeed. We have to step away, but when we come back, Legacy Esports will face off against Russian Force as the international wildcard.